Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Charge Blade goodness. Today we're covering Super Amped Element Discharge, an incredible attack for this weapon to dump all 5 of your vials into one massive explosion. As you can see, that's going to result in 5 ticks here of just shy 600 a hit after the initial 2 ticks in the first place, amounting to just shy 3,500 damage in one hit. But when we actually have things like coalescence and element absorption actually active at the same time and you have the right setup, we can push that damage even higher, those ticks going up to 611 on multiple cases of SAEDs at this point. So we're reliably just under or over 600 a pop, which is incredible burst for one ability. This all works brilliantly with the ultra high element that we can reach thanks to the Artian weapons in specific. Despite that though, people actually think SAED isn't that viable in wilds for some reason. And that's interesting because not only do we have the super high element weapons, but we also have things like load shells as a skill to help get the overcharged vials, a new mechanic in wilds, which increases the damage of your SAEDs, which in my testing has been a bit inconsistent, but for what percent it increases, it seems to be about 20% on average, so it's no small thing. There's also skills like focus to help you generate vials quickly, and focus mode aiming to be more accurate with those attacks, let alone the full 180s you can do during the animation if you need to. So if that's all the case, why isn't it more commonly used? Well, it's just that it's not meta because Power Axe Charge Blade is one of the best things in the game right now, so it kind of overshadows it. There's also some downsides of using element focused weapons, like needing to make the most of it, so 5 element setups based on what monster you're about to go against, what are its best weaknesses. It's just not worth really going for unless the enemy already has decent element hit zones to make the best use of this. And in wilds, monster hit zones, especially the tier 3 monsters, they're not great. Like take new Udra here. The best options you have range from 15, 18 and capping at 20, which is pretty low. Looking at Gore as another example, you could technically do the best damage with Dragon at the antenna for a 25 hit zone, but the antenna's not out that much. You actually see people use fire instead for this monster because the hit zones on average are 5 or even 10 higher, just only that specific 25 on Dragon for the antenna. So your average output's better with fire against Gore. Meanwhile, a monster like Gravios, which is only a tier 2, has some of the best hit zones we can play with for element. Weak to water, you can reach up to 45 against the double broken belly. So it's a massive difference in the relevance of element. And then with all the Artian crafting you've got to do and trying to get those perfect weapons, it just makes it harder to justify. The thing is fun, and SAED is really strong with high element against the right targets. Real quick before we get into it though, Josh once again deserves credit for his part in this. While I understand Charge Blade, it's by working with Josh to discuss the options, the skills, how it all works with Charge Blade that we come to these conclusions. He's the longtime veteran of the game who can be trusted to make the choices for the sets and how to best achieve the best skill list we're looking for, with the math to back it up behind it. So full credit to him for all of that, I'm just presenting it. As a quick overview of how playing SAED is a bit different than, say, your Power Axe. Your goal is actually just to charge the shield, which unlocks the ability to go into SAED. It's actually worth charging your sword mode when playing like this then, because you're actually not going into axe that much, or really at all. So by making the sword attacks you're dealing deal extra pops of damage, it's not that bad. And then you also get Mind's Eye, so you're not deflecting, especially good against something like Gravios. Pretty cool. The new way that you access Super Amped Element Discharge then is actually quite simple. You just land a block, not even a perfect guard, just a regular guard, and that can be comboed straight into an SAED. Alternative to that, uncommonly used, would be after an Amped Element Discharge, which you can transfer into off a shield thrust, or go into axe mode and just throw it out from standing, and then follow that into an SAED. So I'm looking to block attacks with the openings for an SAED, and if a monster's staggered, paused, knocked, or giving me the chance, I'll go into an AED to go into SAED after that. I also recommend Rocksteady Mantle if you're thinking about what mantle to run, because it's going to kind of secure that SAED even in the tough situations. Alright, let's talk about the weapon because this is pretty important. Firstly, you need to think about what enemy you're going against. Do you need fire, water, dragon? What's the weakness? And then go from there. Personally, I recommend that you build dragon if you just want to go for one thing, because that's going to be something that fits all sizes, but not perfectly. Like I said, water would be best against new Udra, but dragon would work. Same thing for Gore. You know, fire would be best overall, but you could use dragon. If you're willing to go the distance though, you want to make one for every element and use the best weakness that it's got. Either way, whatever it is you're doing, you want to make sure that all 3 infusions are attack, just because you're going to get the most value out of that. And then when it comes to the specific reinforced bonuses, this is what you're looking for. 1 sharpness so that you're actually in white, and I'll also talk about the offensive decorations in a sec. Then 4 element boost. With Charge Blade, each one of these gives you an extra 50. So you start with 300 element, and then by adding 200 from that, we get all the way up to 500 as the starting base element to scale from. What's really cool about this is it means your cap of element will go up as well, which is how we're reaching towards 900 plus element with these weapons. So much like any element weapon and setup that you're looking for, you're going to want 4 element boost and 1 sharpness. I wish you the best of luck getting these perfect rolls across the board for different elements. This is why it's so hard to get into. Next up, let's talk about your offensive decorations. Depending on the element that you're using, you go for that element to get 3 of its attacks. So we have fire in this case. If you're using ice, you go for ice. And then with that, 1 level of rapid morph is really nice. It's going to give you that 10% speed up increase on the morphs, so you're getting to SAD on certain morphs a little bit quicker. Your alternative to that would be a level of handicraft, just to secure your white sharpness a bit more. I recommend minimum 1 level of handicraft, ideally 2 if you can fit it. But with that, obviously we have magazine, aka load shells at 2 levels. This is what's allowing you to, at red vials, instantly overcharge your vials, or say yellow, fill all 5. Super nice and super important for this setup. Focus is also very important because focus is going to help you build those vials to yellow and red quicker in shorter combos. As you can see, increases charge times by 15%. Sadly, I don't have a focus and handicraft or something relevant, so I don't have the perfect setup here. But you got the 3 main skills, 1 level of rapid morph, 2 handicraft. That's what I would be aiming for. Most setups use razor sharp instead of handicraft though, and that's because, you know, they're doing lots of attacks, and so they're really benefiting from, say, 50% chance not to lose sharpness. We're doing a lot of SAED more than attacking with a weapon, so we can get away with not running it. But now let's talk about the sets that we're actually going to use for these weapons. So we're going to have 3 sets total, and this is important for a few reasons. We have 1 set where there's no absorb element or convert element because you're facing a monster that simply doesn't have element attacks that you're going to be able to absorb. Many monsters will have this, whether it's a fireball being shot your way, the dragon element of an arkveld chain. But some monsters don't have it, so in this case, you'd run the no absorb set, which is still going to be able to reach element cap like the rest, just not as consistently. However, with element, we can benefit in 2 ways. 1 is for dragon in specific, where we're actually making use of the convert element skill. Convert element essentially at level 1 gives you a nice increase of your dragon element specifically, as well as random bits of dragon damage after you take elemental damage, which you can stop with a block or perfect guard or whatever. But anyway, we intentionally at least take a elemental hit, since it lasts a good 2 minutes and then has a cooldown of about 90 seconds. During that period then, we benefit from an extra 80 dragon element. So for a dragon set, convert element is simply better than element absorb. But on the other hand, we can't benefit from dragon with these elements. So instead of running convert element, what we're running there is element absorption, which works essentially the same, but you do get a bit of element resistance for the element that you took, and instead of 80 dragon, you get 40 universal element. At level 1, that is specifically for charge blade. But again, it lasts 2 minutes and has a 90-second cooldown, so we make sure to take an element hit and block that or whatever, whenever it's available. So let's explain the sets, the skills and all that, starting with the no absorb set if you're against something that doesn't use elemental attacks. Everything is in beta for the decoration slots, but we have the ebony helm, arkveld chest, the vulgar gloves, and then gore waist and gore boots for the 2-piece of that set, as well as the chain charm for burst. This provides us with this set of skills, which is maxed out burst, 3 weakness exploit, maxing out maximum might, coalescence, antivirus, and a couple other random skills. As usual, the 2-piece of gore allows us to generate frenzy, and we cleanse that for the affinity it provides. With antivirus at 3 out of 3, that gives us an easier way to cleanse it during attacks and also puts that affinity to 25% total. In all these sets, we run maximum might because we're using a charge blade. Many of our attacks use no stamina at all, so it's just a load of affinity for free. You're also going to see a lot of burst in use. At level 5, burst gives us 18 raw and 140 element for charge blade specifically, so it's pretty phenomenal. That's why it's in all the different sets. But next, let's talk about the dragon convert set. If you're running a dragon bit of equipment, then of course running convert element for the 80 dragon element is very nice. For this, we are running beta across the board again, guardian ebony helm, arkveld chest, arkveld gloves, which is really nice, 2-piece gore with a waist and boots, and again the chain charm. Here are the decorations for this set to achieve this skill list if you are interested. In this case, we have 2 levels of coalescence because convert element is giving us more element to work with, so we don't need as much there to reach the cap. This also means we have the 2-piece of arkveld set, so you're regenerating a bit of health by attacking, which is quite nice. So that's the dragon convert set. Lastly, we have the all element. So if you're not using dragon and you're against a monster that actually uses elemental attacks, then we want element absorption. I've got a fire and water setup, but also you'll consider thunder and ice. The setup on all of them is the same, except for your offensive decoration. That is obviously the correct element attack, whether that's fire, water, ice, or thunder. For this then, we have everything in beta once again. We have the gore helmet this time, arkveld chest, ebony gloves instead, the gore waist, and then guardian arkveld boots with a chain charm at the end. Here are the decorations to achieve the skill list that we're going to look at. Pause if you need to. But this has 2 pages, as you can see, because of that divine blessing and element absorption. Element absorption then gives us 40 element when we take that element hit from the monster. Again, it can be blocked or perfect guarded, but works similar in that it lasts 2 minutes and has a 90-second cooldown. So again, that'll help us reach the element cap. That's why we only have 2 levels of coalescence. We don't need more. So let's do the math to talk about how these sets achieve the cap of element in different ways. All of these sets have the same raw though, so that makes this math pretty straightforward on that side of things. So as you can see, we have 205 as our base raw. We're getting 18 raw from burst, bringing us to 223. Our total affinity with this set will be 75 consistently. 30% from maximum might, 25% from antivirus, 15% from 3 levels of weakness exploit, and then the 5% base Artian. Now we don't have any crit boosts, so it's just 25% damage increase for the crits. With 75% affinity, that's 75% of the time. So that brings us to more like an 18.75 damage percent increase. So we'll times that by the 223, bringing us to 265 raw. It's reasonable effective raw to say that this is more of an element set, and that's what our focus is on. So let's talk about the element of the sets. And we'll do so starting with the no absorb, no convert element set, which will reach the cap of our element, which is awesome, just less consistently than the others. So all of these have 4 levels of element boost as the goal, adding 50 element per reinforcement bonus. So in our case, that's 200 extra element on the base 300, bringing us to 500. So 500 base element. We're going to get 60 on top of that from element attack 3, 560 then. Then we're going to multiply that by our 3 levels of element attack and also 3 levels of coalescence, bringing us to 840. We have 5 levels of burst, so that's 140 more element there. So that brings us to 980 right there. The cap for our element with this setup is 950. So we're slightly over cap at times here. So the cap of 950 is the bloated number. We divide that by 10 to get the true element. So that's actually 95 true element on our SAEDs. But for normal attacks, we can include our white sharpness, which is a 15% damage increase, bringing us to 109 element in that case. Not bad at all for the one that's not using convert element or element absorption. But of course we are using those, so let's look at next the element absorption sets. Once again then, we have a 500 base element, plus 60 from element attack 3, 560, we multiply this by our 3 levels of element attack and 2 levels of coalescence this time. So that brings us to a smaller number by comparison at 784. We're still getting 140 from burst 5, but now we're getting 1 level of element absorb, so that's an extra 40 element there. That brings us to 964, but again the cap is 950. If we unbloat that, that brings us to 95 true element on those SAEDs. And again, for our normal attacks, with a white sharpness modifier, 109 element. Lastly then, we got to look at the dragon set where we're using convert element. Starting from the bottom, we have the 500 base element, 60 from element attack 3. Then we're going to multiply that 560 by the element attack 3 and coalescence 2 again. So same thing, 784. We have burst 5, so 140 there. But we're going to add 80 dragon element here thanks to element convert 1. Bringing us to 1004, but again, the cap is 950. So there's definitely some more wasted element there, but dropping a level of coalescence or say burst doesn't actually lead to any meaningful better set for specifically SAED spam, which is what we're doing here. The cap at 950 then, let's unbloat that to 95. Again, 95 true element on your SAEDs. And once more for your normal attacks, that white sharpness, 15% damage increase, it's 109 element. It's an interesting conclusion then, because with the neutral element set, you are still reaching the element cap without convert element or element absorption. But the context of that's important. This is achieved because Coalescence 3 and Burst 5 gives you the same final element as something like Coalescence 2, Burst 5 with one convert element or one absorb element. But the thing here is that the sets using convert element or absorption simply have higher average uptime at the capped element. So while they all hit the cap, your dragon set and your all element set, you're going to be at that cap more often, resulting in better output for your SAEDs more often than not. So they are better sets. But there you have it. That's our overview of the SAED Charge Blade builds. Honestly, very fun, very effective, and absolutely worth running if you commit some builds into it. If you love SAED and maybe you're missing in Wilds, give it a try. It's still phenomenal. It's just that it's overshadowed by one of the strongest things in the game right now, the Power Axe version of the Charge Blade builds. But it doesn't mean SAED is bad. And hey, if we get some actual element hit zones in the future from maybe update 1, it'll be even better. For now though, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.